All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm so happy to have you here today. So today marks about a week and a half since the Charlie Kirk assassination, and there has been so many different things that have happened as a result of this, so many different things that over the next week or two we are going to be looking at and going to be talking about. But I felt like the thing that I wanted to start with, the thing that I was weighing most heavily on my heart to do, was addressing and talking about some of the biggest lies that I have seen told about Charlie Kirk, because they are so blatant and so false that it makes my blood boil a little bit given everything that has happened. So I want to take some time today to look at the most common ones that I have been seeing and debunk them, because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of sitting idly by and letting these psychopaths on the left run their mouths. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not participating. I'm not playing this game. So we're going to get into that. But first, this is your reminder to subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. If you want to follow me on any other social medias, they are linked down below. As always, I post short form content over there if that is something that you are interested in. And without any further ado, let's dive right in. Okay, so the first one that has caused, I would say, the most upheaval is that he advocated for stoning gays. Now, this really, it was already getting traction and people were already saying this, but Stephen King went and ran his mouth. He posted this tweet here. It has since been deleted, and he went on what one might call an apology tour because he got called out for the blatant falsity in his statement. So what we're going to do is go ahead and look at the clip in question where this originated from.
And she comes back and she's like, now I'm just talking as Rachel. And she goes, the reason I'm this way is because I'm Christian. And in the Bible, it says, love your neighbor. And really, I approach people in love. And if you're not doing that, I guess you're not really following the Bible. She didn't say that part, you're not following the Bible, but that was kind of the underlying piece there. So Charlie, what's going on with that?
Well, let's let her say it. 120, I'll respond, and then I got a dash.
I've shared prayers on here before and said, God bless. And that's because my faith is really important to me. And it's also one reason why I love every neighbor. In Matthew 22, a religious teacher asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And Jesus says to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. There's no greater commandments than these. I believe it's mentioned 8 times, love your neighbor. So yes, everyone belongs, everyone's welcome, everyone is treated with empathy and respect. It doesn't say love every neighbor except. There are so many reasons I stand strong in love. I stand with everyone. That's who I am. And the love back and the God bless if you disagree is genuine.
Andrew?
I would just, to Jack's point, I'm dying to know, like, what do you think when Miss Rachel quotes scripture in that way?
I mean, Satan's quoted scripture plenty.
It doesn't just say love your neighbor, though. It does say love your neighbor except, in a sense.
As yourself, but hold on. She's not totally wrong when she says, first of all, the first part is Deuteronomy 6:3-5. The second part is Leviticus 19. So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
You love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
So personally, I think that people are being intentionally dense when it comes to this because he's having a theological conversation. Miss Rachel quoted one part of the Bible, he quoted another saying, well, yes, it says this, but it also says this. And in a theological conversation, we are allowed to discuss every part of the Bible, and this is something that is said in the Bible, Charlie does not say that he wants this to happen. He does not say that he is advocating for this. He is just saying, well, you're talking about this part of the Bible, but can you contend with this part of the Bible? Because it's a theological conversation, and to pretend otherwise is to be intentionally dense. And just to further back up my point here, I want to play this next clip, kind of demonstrating and kind of probably giving you a better idea on where Charlie Kirk actually stands on the gay community.
When gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events. It seems to me and anyone who's paying attention that conservatives just believe whatever liberals believed 5 years ago. Right now, there's a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and... Oh, excuse me. Phone shut off.
Go back to your notes. That's probably where you saved it. You know, you got to like push double tap and then go over.
Right now, there is a push by the left to normalize pedophilia by way of child drag queen shows and rebranding pedophiles as minor attracted persons. 5 years from now, will you be promoting child drag queen shows? Will child abuse become part of the conservative platform?
Boy, that's a slippery slope fallacy if I've ever seen one. First of all, I've never invited a drag queen to come to any Turning Point USA event. I was at Politicon, and an individual by the name of Lady MAGA came up, and I took a picture, and she walked away. Secondly, let me ask you a question. Are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, sir.
So are you a proud Trump supporter?
Of course.
So are you sickened that he had a gay man speak at his convention?
Yes.
Then you're not a Trump supporter, my friend. Thank you very much. Let me ask you another question. Should he return the money of Peter Thiel, an openly gay man who supports his campaign?
No, if it helps him strategically,
okay.
Sure he can.
Should he stop talking to Tammy Bruce, who's an open lesbian that's a Fox News contributor?
If it's affecting his ideas, then probably, yeah.
Okay, so you say you're a Trump supporter, yet you have all these issues and these disagreements with him. Let me be very clear about my position. My personal position. I'm a Christian first and foremost, then an American, then a constitutionalist, then a conservative. In that order. I believe marriage, biblically, if we want to have a biblical and theological discussion, as articulated in the greatest book ever to exist in the history of the world, the Holy Bible. Marriage in the Holy Bible is one man, one woman. I also do not believe in the sort of rhetoric that some people engage in, that all of a sudden that they say there's no place for gay people in the conservative movement. I do not believe that.
That's not conservative.
And let me ask you a question. Can I ask you a question then?
Sure, go for it.
So, the American family, liberty, freedom, the Constitution, our history, veterans, that's what we're conserving. I'll get to you later though, don't worry. So let me ask you a question. What if you had your way, what would you do with gay people in America?
What would I do with them? I wouldn't.
Yeah, because they're not allowed in the conservative movement. So would you just kick them out anytime they show up at a Republican Party? If you were in charge, like what would you say? You can't be part of the Republican Party.
If somebody is advocating for being openly homosexual, yeah, they should not be part of the conservative movement.
So I just want to go through the list. Guy Benson, no place in the conservative movement. Dave Rubin, no place in the conservative movement. Peter Thiel, no place in the conservative movement. So that just to go down the list.
If they are supporting open homosexuality.
So
yeah, no
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is
so. Let me ask you a question.
Are you a Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, then you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
I mean, go off. So I think that if you have any doubts in your mind on, like, he even says in this clip, like, if we're having a theological conversation, then that's one thing, but we don't live in a theocracy. I feel like that one's really clear cut, really obvious. And I think that one clip that we just watched can really truly be used to debunk all of these. He's homophobic, he hates gay people, all of these claims, every single one of those claims is debunked with this one clip because he makes it abundantly clear where he stands on this issue. So we're going to move ahead. The next one that I've been seeing a lot is that he doesn't believe in empathy. So we're going to check out the clip in which this is coming from.
I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but I can't stand the word empathy.
It's actually miraculous how short this clip is. If I could just issue a word of advice, if you ever see a clip that is this short, it's out of context. It is out of context. If they have to clip it down to 6 seconds, it's out of context. So let's take a look at that missing context.
The new communication strategy is not to do what Bill Clinton used to do, where he would say, I feel your pain. Instead, it is to say, you're actually not in pain. So let's just very short clip. Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time. Here's cut 65.
Okay, so if you didn't clip it down to 6 seconds and you let it to continue to play out in its natural path, he goes on to say that he prefers sympathy. I think it's important to have the conversation of the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy says, like, I can relate to you. I've been through something similar. I can understand how you're feeling. Whereas empathy says, I feel what you're feeling. Like, I am going through this with you. I feel it exactly as you are feeling it. And I don't feel passionately about this one way or the other, but it is incredibly important to make the point that Charlie Kirk is not saying that he can't sympathize with people. He is making a distinction between sympathy and empathy and saying that he prefers the term sympathy. So once again, we are confronted with this group of people who are intentionally lying, intentionally spreading clips out of context, intentionally trying to give the least gracious intentions to Charlie Kirk in an effort to justify his murder. Let's be very clear about that, because the people who are doing this are saying, well, he didn't have empathy for others, so I don't have any empathy for his murder, when that's not at all what he was saying. The people are trying to excuse what happened to him by lying, and it's demonic. I have used that phrase more in the last week and a half than I think I ever have in my 4 or 5 years of doing this, because it's truly what we are seeing. This is so demonic. These people are possessed by Satan. There's a deep spiritual problem happening here. Okay, so the next one is that he says that the Second Amendment is worth death, and they kind of leave it there. We're gonna take a look at the clip that they are circulating, and then we will take a look at it in its full context. Once again, there's gonna be a lot of this.
But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
Okay, so this is the clip that they are circulating. This is all he had to say, apparently. Let's take a look. Let's see what was happening beforehand.
Be honest with the population. Having an armed citizenry comes with a price. Wow. And that is part of liberty. Wow. Driving comes with a price. 50,000 people die on the road every year. Wow. That's a price. You get rid of driving, you'd have 50,000 less auto fatalities. But we have decided that the benefit of driving, speed, accessibility, mobility, having products, services, is worth the cost of 50,000 people dying on the road. Wow. So we need to be very clear. that you're not going to get gun deaths to zero. It will not happen. Right. You can significantly reduce them through having more fathers in the home, by having more armed guards in front of schools. We should have an honest and clear reductionist view of gun violence, but we should not have a utopian one. You will never live in a society when you have an armed citizenry and you won't have a single gun death. That is nonsense. It's drivel. But I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
Okay, so clearly in its full context, he talks about we should obviously take measures to reduce this. It's not a good thing that this happens, but he is correct. We need the Second Amendment to protect every other right. It is essential. And the most tragic thing is, if Charlie could speak right now, he would say that it was worth it. He would. And once again, we have people trying to use this clip to say he got what he wanted. He got what he deserved, and that's so sick. It's sickening. Okay, so the last one that I want to look at is definitely going to be the longest clip that we have, but I think that it's really, really important because he is talking about Black people being better off in the 1940s. So once again, we're going to look at the clip that they are circulating, and then we're going to check it out in its full context. The full context video is about 5 minutes long, but it's really important because the points that he's making are so fair and so balanced. But these people are psychotic. So
you become desperate and are forced to do things that maybe don't align with your values.
What you're making an excuse for a lot of murder.
When you have
a lot of stealing,
a high concentration of a subjugated people in one area.
If you were right, when blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
So I'm sorry, are you trying to say that blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Editing Noel here, I realized that I didn't inform you guys that I was going to start playing the full context clip, so here's the full context clip.
In the early 1800s.
Earlier.
No.
Slavery?
1816 is the beginning of slavery.
1619.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would be. Okay.
A moment of silence for this bitch's brain cells, please. Okay, we'll continue.
First slaves come in 1619, doesn't end until 1800s.
1880s.
Then we go into Jim Crow laws starting in 1877, and Black people are not given equal rights until officially 1965. Would you agree with that?
That's generally the correct telling.
Yeah, so, 1960s, 1970s.
But just so we're clear that Black Americans were able to serve in office in the early 1900s. They were able to vote throughout the 1900s. But yes, there were poll taxes, there was Jim Crow laws, there was segregation. Of course there was. I mean, you have to be delusional not to acknowledge those things.
Okay, so we can acknowledge all of those things. Can we also acknowledge, due to the laws under Jim Crow, that Black people were significantly hindered from economic advancement?
This is a really important question. The data shows not really. It was evil, it was terrible, but Black Americans are poorer today in 2024 than they were in the 1950s.
Yes, why do you think that is?
Good question. So we have the Civil Rights Act, we have more benefits, more government programs. Something changed between the 1950s and 2024. So there's two answers to this question. Either America got more racist since 1950s to 2024, so like that 70-year period, because Black Americans are worse off today per capita.
Yeah,
than
I would
they
agree
were.
with this.
You agree with that? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Than in the 1950s. Or there's another explanation, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, which is I think you would acknowledge that the disappearance of the Black father has been the number one driver of Black poverty in this country. Now, there are reasons for that we could...
Yeah, what do you think the reasons for that are?
Well, culture is one.
Like, why are the bitches in the background acting like that's groundbreaking news or racist to say? Yeah, single parent households do not fare as well. fatherlessness in the Black community has gone up from, I think it's 20 or 30% to, I think it's at 70. So yeah, that we should look into that. We should be willing to say that that's a problem, and that should not be racist. It's not racist, but these loons need to be able to acknowledge that it's not racist so that we can have a conversation and maybe reach a solution.
Would you agree?
So actually, let's go back to the foundations
of that school to prison
culture.
pipeline, all that stuff. But can we at least agree that Black dads not being around is a bad thing?
Anyone's father not being around is a bad thing.
No, of course,
not
but
specifically.
75% of Black youth are not raised with a father in the home. It's the highest of any group in the country. It used to be 25% in the 1950s, so it's gone up dramatically in 70 years.
Okay, so you are blaming the fact that Black people have not been able to achieve economic equality and
Or even
advancement in
progress.
this
It's 'cause
country.
they've had decrease.
Specifically and solely because of the absence
Not
of Black
solely.
parents.
It is the most primary ingredient reason. It's the most
So you
primary
think
reason.
it's the absence of Black fathers?
Correct.
And you think, what else?
Public sector's teacher unions that have kept these schools crummy and kids aren't reading and teachers keep getting paid and we don't fire bad teachers. That's a big thing.
Okay.
War on police in our inner cities and not having enough police and not actually locking up criminals. Hear me out. For example, in Chicago, do you know that only half of all murders go solved in the city of Chicago?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
That's a problem, right?
That is a problem.
Yeah. So we need more police, more detectives to solve those murders. But I want to hear your points too. I'm talking too much.
So let's go back a little bit to what you said in the issue of policing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, starting in the 1980s and continuing onward, there's been a war on drugs. Is this correct?
I like the war on drugs.
You like the war on drugs. So
Yes.
during the war on drugs, it created an epidemic of mass incarceration, specifically
Hold on.
of...
Only if you're using drugs
No.
or peddling drugs. If you don't use drugs, then you don't go to jail, right?
So you believe that the criminal justice system is flawless?
No, I've never said flawless. There's a lot of people in jail that shouldn't be in jail. There's a lot of problems in any system.
Okay, so
But-
wait, let's
but
pause on
however,
that. So you believe that a lot of people who have gone to jail
small percentage.
shouldn't be in jail? A small percent.
Yeah,
What
but-
percent would you say?
5%?
You would say only 5%.
Correct. When you have a system of justice, you're going to have scummy prosecutors. You're going to have bad defense attorneys.
I have a question. Can I get a Google? What percentage of people currently incarcerated are Black?
It's way larger than
Well,
five.
it's hold on.
It's what?
Hold on.
Way larger than five.
No, I know, but
Also,
the
when
fact
you're talking
the
about
fact I'm
mass
saying
incarceration
5%.
Black fathers, it's caused by the war on drugs.
Hold on a
So
second.
that's the point that I'm trying to make. Exactly.
Who am I debating? Am I debating here? Am
If
I?
your own government is pumping drugs,
Yeah. So.
Okay, so
but
I want to make a quick
You're
point.
right. Black Americans are in prison far greater than the percentage of the population. So Black Americans are about 13 to 14% of the population.
Yes, I
About
know
half
this.
of all prisoners are Black.
Exactly.
So Blacks commit more crimes than whites do. They commit more murders. They commit more arsons. They commit more kidnappings. For example, Blacks are 13% of the population, and they commit 50.
Let's take a look at that. There's a fact check on the screen if you're not watching. According to the U.S. Census, Blacks, it's just funny, Blacks make up 13.7% of the population in 2019. 51.2% of those arrested for murder and non-negligent manslaughter were Black, according to the FBI. So Charlie is correct.
8% of all the murders. That's not a war on drugs. That's a culture problem.
Okay, so let's talk about that culture. Black people have been legislatively subjugated up until 1965. I'll give it, I mean, honestly, it's later, but let's just say 1965. You do not think that 10 generations of legislative subjugation and slavery during that time, 4,000 Black men, women, and children are lynched as the result of race riots in this country? You do not think that these things have a lasting effect? We have had 10 generations of subjugation and 4 of legislative
Of course
freedom.
they have an impact, but it's more on you to explain why things got worse since the Civil Rights Act. More violent, less fathers around, poorer. Why is that? So,
because of mass incarceration and the unfair criminalization of Black men.
But let's just take murders, for example. Why Blacks are 13% of the population and commit 58% of the murders? Why is that?
Because people in affluent and whiter neighborhoods are not being policed at the same rate. There are
Murders.
more
Murders.
police.
I'm talking about dead bodies. There's no, we're not talking about policing, we're talking about murders. Why are so many Blacks committing murders outside of their population?
Okay, let's take it back to some history.
I'm curious for an answer to that question.
I'm going to give you one. So let's go to redlining. Okay. Redlining.
Redlining
Yes.
is why so many blacks are killing each other?
No, let me finish my claim.
Okay.
And then you can respond. Is that okay? Okay. So redlining, federally mandated or sustained by the FHA, right? Separating Black Americans to specifically impoverished and relegated areas of the country. We are incapable of buying homes and putting equity into neighborhoods with lower crime rates and better educational systems. We do not have access to things that would uplift and help our community. When you are put in an environment that promotes and reinforces social and economic inequality, you become desperate and are forced to do things
Like
that
kill people.
maybe don't align with your
But
values.
what you're making an excuse for a lot of
Now,
murder.
when you
and
have
a lot of stealing,
a high
but
concentration
that-
of a subjugated people in
Hold on.
one area,
If you were right, when blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that?
so I'm sorry, are you trying to say that blacks thrive under subjugation?
No, I'm not. I'm saying I'm asking you the question. The data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. I mean, 4,000 Black men, women, and children were killed
so
in
if
violent lynch
if
mobs.
that's your explanation, but
Racial terror permeated
Black
American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is
You don't
worse
think
than it has been
that
in the
affected
last 80 years.
the generational psyche of an entire group of people?
No, I'm sure it did. I'm not discounting that. I'm just trying to understand, why is it the more social welfare we've done, so we've spent $20 trillion on uplifting black communities, $20 trillion, and black Americans are poor. We've done everything that's been asked.
You haven't done everything
Hold on.
that's been asked, though.
Great society,
because what is
food
being
stamps,
asked,
subsidized housing, Medicaid, public schooling, subsidized college. We're talking about $20 trillion that has been spent on the Great Society, and yet Black America is poorer, more murderous, more dangerous. So there's an explanation. I'm asking you to
but we are
explain
not
that to me.
asking for handouts. We are asking for equity.
Hold on,
And
what is
part
that?
of
What does
equity,
equity mean?
is
You mean taking
allow-
from other people?
Excuse me, it means sharing, which is something that you guys seem to have a very hard time doing.
Sharing. So somebody has to explain why Black America, and you haven't, is 13% of the population and commits 58% of the murder.
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, I started getting a little bit emotional watching that clip just because I don't know about you guys, but I just keep having these moments where it hits me and I just have so much disbelief that this actually happened. And listening to him and how willing he is to listen and grant her points and say, I hear you, and yeah, that probably is a factor of this, but why can't we talk about this factor? Because the whole thing is trying to get at, like he said, the primary problem is fatherlessness, and that's a cultural problem, and that's his perspective, that's his point that he's making, and that's not racist. And so tying it back to debunking, because the original clip that was circulating was just him saying that Black people were better in the 40s. Having the full context of that conversation, it's clear that the point that he's making is really fair. They committed far less crimes. They had a higher rate of fathers in the home. They were richer. Like, by every metric, they were better off. So what changed is his question. And I do want to touch on that last thing that she said, though, because she says, we're not asking for handouts, we're asking for you to share. And that's, Miss Girl, that's what a handout is. And it's pretty clear that your handouts and the sharing has not solved any of the problems within the Black community. So maybe it's time we take a different approach. Maybe it's time we look at some different issues, some different variables that are causing these problems. And that's the only thing that he was saying. And yeah, so he was not a racist. He was not a homophobe. He was not a whatever-a-phobe. He was a good man, and he was murdered for the crime of wanting to have conversation. And I don't think I'll ever get over that, to be honest. The fire that this has lit underneath me, and I think a lot of people, millions and millions and millions and millions of people, it's tremendous. It's, yeah. So let me know what you guys think And honestly, let me know how you guys are doing, because it's been a rough week. It's been a really rough. Yeah, so let me know how you guys are doing, and I will talk to you guys on Monday. Yeah. Bye.